Let's jump right into this explainer and reverse engineer how one literally simple beverage built what's arguably the greatest global business system in human history. I mean, think about it for a second. Whether you're standing in the neon-drenched center of Tokyo, walking the busy streets of New York, or traveling down a dirt road to a tiny village shop in rural Kenya, you're going to find the exact same product. Very few companies, actually almost none, have managed to embed themselves into the daily fabric of absolutely every continent like this. So we're going to unpack exactly how they pulled it off layer by layer.
Now, despite the legendary status of the Coca-Cola recipe, the one supposedly locked in a heavily guarded vault that we've all heard endless stories about, the actual liquid isn't the true secret to their dominance. Yeah, the taste is iconic for sure, but if we really want to understand the sheer magnitude of this empire, we have to look way, way beyond the syrup.
So the big question is, how on earth did a 19th century pharmacy tonic manage to infiltrate small villages and massive supermarkets across every single continent? How exactly does a localized headache remedy evolve into a brand that crosses cultural, linguistic, and geographic boundaries with just almost effortless ease?
Here's our blueprint for today's explainer. 1. The myth of the recipe. 2. The distribution empire. 3. The hidden concentrate business. 4. Selling feelings. And 5. Modern evolution. Let's kick things off with part 1, the myth of the recipe. We're deconstructing the origins of the world's most famous brand.
The story always starts in 1886 in John Stith Pemberton's pharmacy down in Atlanta, but the real spark, that didn't happen in the lab, it happened in the boardroom. Following those early days, Asa Candler took over and launched this incredible, aggressive marketing push in the 1890s. Candler realized something profoundly ahead of his time, that trademark protections and advertising were the actual assets, not just the fizzy drink itself. Fast forward to 1915, and the company commissioned that iconic contour bottle. Their explicit goal here was to make a package so completely distinctive that you could recognize it just by feeling it in the dark, or even if you saw it shattered into pieces on the ground. Decades later, the World War II expansion in the 1940s forced the product into entirely new global markets. General Dwight D. Eisenhower actually requested entire bottling plants be shipped overseas for the troops. This effectively allowed the U.S. military to subsidize Coca-Cola's global infrastructure. It's wild to think about, but branding, and not just a secret recipe, was always the foundational engine of their explosive growth.
Moving right along to part 2, the global distribution empire, getting the drink to every corner of the earth. Here is something that surprises a lot of people. Coca-Cola doesn't actually bottle most of its own drinks. Independent franchise partners do that. Early on, the company made this strategic, totally world-altering decision to franchise the bottling process. I mean, just think about the sheer logistics of building a beverage empire for a second. If the parent company had to buy all the real estate, build every factory, and maintain the massive fleets of delivery trucks in every single country on Earth, the capital expenditure would be financially devastating. It's just not possible. By franchising, they fundamentally altered the trajectory of the business. It allowed them to scale infinitely and rapidly without bearing the crushing cost of all that heavy, localized infrastructure. So at the absolute center of this whole ecosystem, the Coca-Cola company really handles just two main things: the highly secretive syrup and the global branding. That's it. Moving one layer out, the franchise bottlers take over the heavy physical lifting. They're the ones doing the actual manufacturing, running those massive delivery trucks and managing the wildly complex local logistics. And finally, the retail partners, which could be anything from huge grocery chains down to a tiny corner store. They handle the direct consumer sales. It's an incredibly efficient, decentralized machine. It shares the risk while absolutely maximizing global reach.
1.9 billion. That's enough servings to boggle the mind, right? That is the staggering number of daily servings this perfectly orchestrated global supply chain delivers. Just try to wrap your head around the sheer scale of that operation. 1.9 billion times every single day, someone somewhere on this planet consumes a Coca-Cola product. It absolutely proves that their ultimate product isn't actually the carbonated soda. It's the unparalleled distribution network itself.
All right, let's hit part 3, the hidden concentrate business. This is the true source of their massive profit margin.
The genius of their margin structure completely flips the script on traditional manufacturing. The Coca-Cola company focuses almost entirely on high-margin intellectual property, those massive global marketing campaigns, and producing the base concentrate itself. The bottling partners are the ones who take that concentrate, add locally sourced water, the sugar, and the carbonation, package it up, and finally ship it out. So why is this so brilliant? Well, water is incredibly heavy and extraordinarily expensive to ship across oceans and continents. By totally avoiding the global transportation of heavy liquids, the parent company stays unbelievably lean and highly profitable. They shift the massive overhead of liquid logistics squarely onto the local bottlers, a real game changer.
Which brings us to part 4, selling feelings, not beverages. Let's dive into the psychology of a global brand.
Coca-Cola sells feelings, memories, and habits as much as it sells beverages. Think about it. When you watch their advertisements, they almost never talk about carbonation levels, ingredient sourcing, or price points. No way. They talk about happiness, family togetherness, and perfect summer refreshment. The beverage itself, it's merely the physical delivery vehicle for a highly engineered emotional experience.
They've effectively hijacked our most emotional cultural anchors, embedding their logo into literally everything from Christmas to the FIFA World Cup. Take the modern visual of Santa Claus, for example. The jolly red-suited Santa we all recognize today, that was heavily shaped by Coca-Cola's early winter advertising campaigns, famously illustrated by Haddon Sundblom back in the 1930s. And the whole point was specifically to sell cold drinks during the freezing winter months. They also boldly attached themselves to the Olympics and massive international sporting events. So whenever humans gather to celebrate, cheer, or connect, the Coke brand is deeply, almost invisibly intertwined with those powerful, positive memories.
This emotional marketing isn't an accident. It's a deliberate, highly calculated psychological mechanism. By repeatedly utilizing these psychological triggers across multiple generations, they build a deep, subconscious, positive association. So when you reach for a Coke on a hot day, you aren't just making a rational, calculated choice about quenching your thirst. You're actually fulfilling an ingrained habit, one that's driven by decades of careful psychological branding.
And finally, part 5, modern challenges and evolution, adapting to survive in a rapidly changing world.
Of course, it's not all smooth sailing today. Coca-Cola faces severe modern scrutiny regarding global sugar consumption, plastic waste, and intense competition. We're seeing increasing government regulations globally, with strict sugar taxes aimed directly at combating public health concerns like obesity and diabetes. There's also intense, mounting pressure over their massive water usage in drought-prone areas, not to mention their colossal plastic footprint. Add to that the constant, ever-present battle with PepsiCo and the rapid rise of local, highly agile regional beverage brands. The next major battle for this empire isn't about taste at all. It's about navigating shifting consumer behavior and taking true environmental responsibility.
So how do they survive this? Well, they're actively evolving away from just being a traditional soda company. Step 1 is heavily pushing their zero-sugar product lines to meet the demands of today's health-conscious consumers. Step 2 is rapid, aggressive diversification. I mean, they're now heavily invested in bottled water, juices, premium coffee, and sports energy drinks. And Step 3 involves leveraging advanced AI for digital marketing. We're talking using complex algorithms for hyper-personalized ads and predicting future flavor trends, alongside serious structural investments in sustainability. They're funding massive recycling facilities and global water replenishment projects just to secure their future operations.
Operating in over 200 countries and territories today, their physical presence is just absolutely unmatched. Whether you're dining at a high-end restaurant in Paris, using a smart vending machine in a Tokyo subway station, or stopping at a roadside cafe in a remote village, they are there. It proves that their true product, at the end of the day, is pure scale and adaptability.
Which brings us to a massive question to end on. Can this global distribution system, originally built entirely on sugary soda, survive the next century in a health-conscious world? Will their pivot to healthier new products and sustainable green practices be enough to maintain this colossal empire as global habits fundamentally shift?
The absolutely crucial takeaway to remember from our explainer today is this. The world's most successful companies don't just sell products, they build deep-rooted habits and massive global systems. Coca-Cola mastered branding, distribution, consistency, and scale like almost no one else in human history. The world is changing rapidly for sure, but by understanding this blueprint, you now know exactly why they are absolutely everywhere. Thanks for learning with me today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching World Decoded. Make sure to like and share, subscribe, and stay curious.